Welcome to the Senior Safety Advice Podcast, your trusted source for expert guidance on aging safely and independently. Whether you're a caregiver, a family member, or a senior looking to stay secure at home and beyond, we've got you covered. From fall prevention and home modifications to financial safety and scam awareness, we provide practical tips to help you or your loved ones live with confidence. Tune in and empower yourself with the knowledge you need to navigate the challenges of aging. Let's make safety simple.
Hello, and welcome. Welcome back to the Senior Safety Advice Podcast. My name is Esther Kane. I'm a retired occupational therapist and currently a aging in place specialist and dementia care specialist. And I am here to give you information about aging and about caring for aging and aging in place and how caregivers of older parents and older adults can take care of themselves. That is the goal of this podcast. But today we're going to talk a little bit about grandparents. That's the topic for today. So I'm so happy that you're here with me today. I want to talk about this very special topic because it's not often spoken about specifically for, about grandparents. Older adults, yes. Aging seniors, yes, but not specifically grandparents. And I think they play such an amazing role in families. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I did not grow up with grandparents. I only met my paternal grandfather once and my maternal grandmother once when I was very young, and that was it. So I didn't really have a relationship with them. They all live, all my relatives live overseas, so it wasn't anybody that I could relate with or communicate with, even language-wise, on a regular basis. So I'm always envious of people who were able to grow up with their grandparents. So what I'm going to talk about is really information that I've gathered from working with all of my patients, their grandparents, and then my friends and seeing their relationships with their grandparents. So, all right. So one of the things I want to start off with is that the idea that grandparents, years ago used to really be or were revered more as like heroes of the families, because they were our connection to our past. And, decades ago, families were more cohesive, it seems, than they are today. They even lived on the same block, often the same town, city, whatever, and they grew up together. So all the experiences that they had came from the family, and most of it came from the grandparents if they were fortunate enough to have grandparents, and even luckier to have grandparents that could contribute to the family. So, of course, these people share stories, they give advice, and they help to take care of grandchildren and, of course, continue to care for their children. So even though things have changed a lot since decades ago, love and wisdom of a grandparent can still shine through if you're willing to connect with them and if they're willing to connect with you. I know some grandparents who just want to travel the world and get away from their kids. So if you're lucky enough to have grandparents that can continue to be in your life, then I say take full advantage of it. So I think it's so cool, and I've always been so jealous, as I said, that you can connect with an older adult in your family who can keep traditions and share family stories with you. And I think even though today a lot of us live far apart from each other, with technology you can still keep in touch on a regular basis. There's a beautiful movie, if you haven't seen it, it's an older movie, but it's called Avalon, and it beautifully portrays the role of grandparents as the heart and soul of the family, and how times change and affect those relationships. It's really a beautiful movie. Check it out. It's called Avalon. All right, so here are a few ways that that particular film and that grandparents can help with keeping everyone together. One of them is using journals, using well, they're not memory journals. They're more like tell me your story type of journals. And I have an article on senior safety advice. It's at seniorsafetyadvice.com/tell me your story. And tell me your story is there's a dash between each word. So it's tell dash me dash your dash story. And that page has, it's a great article about the benefits of using these types of books, tell me your story types of books that can help to prompt anyone to basically write down their story. It has all kinds of questions and keepsake areas, all kinds of wonderful ways. Because most people, if you give them a blank piece of paper or a book and you ask them to write down their story, at least the ones that I've met, they'll say, oh, I have nothing to say, or my life isn't that, interesting, or whatever. But once you start asking them these questions, then they start coming out with all of these amazing stories that you would have never heard of. I know a lot of my friends have done that with their aging parents and their grandparents. And it's amazing the stories that they heard that they did not know anything about. Another way that you can do this also is basically by interviewing your grandparents. My husband did that. His parents were in their late 80s. And what he did was he set up a video camera and he had a series of questions that he asked them as like an interview. And he sat the two of them down and asked them everything, from how did you meet to what was your first house like or apartment, what was it like raising 3 children, what did you learn from all your volunteer work, or I don't remember the questions, but it's a great legacy now that they're both gone. It's a great way to look back and see what they were like and what was important to them and what they laughed about and how they managed to live together for almost 70 years. And it's a great tool, especially nowadays with our cell phones. It's so easy to just put it on a tripod and interview them. But these books give you the questions that you can use. And on our page that I gave you before on seniorsafetyadvice.com, tell me your story. On that page, there are some recommended products that you can look at to see what might be useful for you. And I personally think those types of things are a great gift to your grandparents, be it for a birthday or, a holiday. So check it out. So grandparents, I think, can be amazing helpers. And of course, they can also be wise friends if you can get along with them. Of course, just like any family member, not everybody can get along with everybody else. But if you're lucky enough to have that amazing, wonderful relationship with your grandparents, then certainly, honor the fact that they can help with your grandkids with your children, their grandkids, with activities around the house, with, planning family reunions, I don't know, anything, whatever it is that they can do. But I will also say that because they are older, as we all get older, we will come across events, things that we simply may not be able to do as well as we used to. I used to be able to multitask 3 or 4 things at once, no problem. It was very easy. And as an occupational therapist, you have to do that at times. But now I've realized in this last year, as I'm in my, later 60s, I can't do that anymore. I have to now focus on one task at a time. And that works out so much better for me, but I do have to break the tasks down to one thing at a time. But I have to recognize that. And if you don't recognize that, you end up making a lot of mistakes. You end up losing things all the time, getting in car accidents, all kinds of things can happen because you're trying to multitask. You're trying to do more things at once, if that happens to be your problem. So I think it's very important that if you're working with your grandparents is to recognize what they can and cannot do, even if they don't recognize it, and then tailor the task or activity, to that. It may be, and a good example would be, I noticed that when I was working geriatrics, that most older adults tended to need to take a nap between 2 and 5. It was between that time frame that it was very difficult to get an older adult to come into the gym, the clinic, whatever, to do any kind of work. And the work that they did was nowhere near as good or as accomplished or productive as what they were able to do in the morning. So, and a lot of them were just simply tired by that time of day. Certainly not everyone, but a good majority of them. So if you're going to ask your grandparents to pick up your child from school at 3 p.m., be aware of that fact. Are they normally tired at that time of day? Can they schedule something different so that they take a nap earlier so that they can be more aware at that time of day, especially if they're driving to pick up your child? You want them to be safe, not only by themselves, but with your child in the car as well. So things like that. You want to be aware of what they can and cannot do and use them for what they can do. Don't blame them for what they cannot. I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all. And if you feel you're not sure, feel free to speak to a physician, especially a geriatrician. Those are the best. Feel free to speak to social workers that work with older adults, geriatric care managers. Those kinds of people can help you identify, or what to look for in older adults. And of course, look through any of our articles on senior safety advice. We have a lot of articles on how to speak to someone who's older, how to speak to someone with dementia, how to identify signs of, whether someone is safe or not, and just all those kinds of little details that are so very important. Your grandparents can be a great asset in your life, and you want to be able to take advantage of that. And hopefully you have that in your family. So the next thing I want to talk about is ways to stay connected. I love these days how we can, well, I love and hate. We all love and hate how connected we are because we can't seem to get away from it. But I mean, you can call, you can text, you can video chat. And of course you can write letters and email. I mean, let's not forget those either. Those are still in play, although they're not used as much. But even if they're far away, you can still use technological tools and all kinds of other tools to stay in touch with them. So many grandparents today are learning all these new things as well. They may even be using social media, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, or X, whatever they're calling it these days. Anything at all. And I have a friend who connects with her grandfather via a video game. They play in the same video game. I can't remember the name of the game, but they play together and they each have their own avatar. And I think that's actually really kind of cool. So it's a wonderful way to be able to connect. It's a new way, of course, and things are forever changing, especially nowadays with AI, but it's a wonderful new way to stay connected. And you want to be able to do that because if you're lucky, as I said a few times, if you're lucky enough to have an engaging grandparent in your life, take advantage of that, because as someone who did not grow up with that, it's definitely a little bit of a hole in my life that I simply can't fill because it's gone. It's not there anymore. So, and it's not possible, of course. So I don't have that connection to family history and stories and from their perspective. And when you think about what our grandparents have lived through, multiple wars, all kinds of political upheavals, diseases, you can't even, and all the technological changes that occurred in their lifetimes, it's amazing to see how they persevered. So thinking about the future, I can see that there's going to be even more cool, amazing ways to stay connected, like more interactive video calls and online games, with clearer photos, clearer pictures, more engaging, even wearables with, videos on them, all kinds of wonderful ways to stay connected. And also nowadays, I know that there's a lot of tools, the Nobi lamp, N-O-B-I. The Nobi lamp is a lamp, literally a ceiling lamp that you put up on the ceiling. And it's not only a lamp, not only a light, but it's also a fall detection device. It alerts caregivers. So you can also, can be or would be connected that way. It's not just your grandparent reaching out to you. You can also monitor them as well if safety is an issue. And I think that the idea of traditions, I didn't grow up with traditions. My parents, we lived in multiple countries and, we were just constantly on the move. So carrying traditions with us just wasn't part of my family's lifestyle. So that's another thing that I am a little jealous of families who have traditions that they carry year after year, holiday traditions, Sunday dinner traditions, all kinds of things like that. And I think getting those from your grandparents is so beautiful. It's just a beautiful way to be connected to your family. Even, of course, family you didn't know, but all of those pieces, all of those individual people is what contributed to bringing you here. So cherish those traditions and cherish where they come from. So that is what I have to say about grandparents. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What is your favorite memory of your grandparents? What is your experience of your grandparents? And maybe you're a grandparent yourself. What do you think about connecting with your grandchildren and keeping connected with your children? What's something that you love about being a grandparent or hate being about a grandparent? If you want, leave me a comment, of course, subscribe to our podcast and give us a review that helps to promote the channel. And, your story is important no matter what. I think that personally, everyone lives an extraordinary, ordinary life. And they don't realize how extraordinary it is until they really sit back and sit down and write about it. And like I said, those journals that I mentioned before, at Tell Me Your Story article on seniorsafetyadvice.com can really help you to give yourself the satisfaction of realizing, wow, I really have had an amazing life. And you have. I can almost guarantee it that you have. And then also, it's a beautiful legacy for your family to know you, to remember you, and to acknowledge where they have come from. I think that's so important. All right. Until next time, take care, keep spreading the love, enjoy your life, and I will see you next time.
That's it for today's episode of the Senior Safety Advice Podcast, helping you and your loved ones stay safe, independent, and informed. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe and share it with others who could benefit. For more expert tips and resources, visit seniorsafetyadvice.com. And remember, staying safe starts with staying informed. Until next time, take care and stay safe.